Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Halcyon Blink. I'm your host, Lauren Risley, and in this episode of Halcyon Blink, I'm going to be talking about one of my favourite comedies of all time, Hot Fuzz. Oh my god, is this a funny film. To put things into context, I'd seen Shaun of the Dead, another of the Cornetto trilogy, and I loved it so much that I didn't bother watching Hot Fuzz originally when it was released because I just knew that there was no way it could ever top Shaun of the Dead. Hitting a zombie with cricket bats and golf clubs to Don't Stop Me Now by Queen in the middle of a pub was just one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Okay, John, it's time at the bar.
Not to mention the interaction between Simon Pegg and Nick Frost as the flatmates that were battling the zombie apocalypse in their quirky British way. It was just hilarious. So when I heard they were making a cop drama, it sounded more toned down, it sounded like the pretense was a bit more hashed out and a bit boring, so I passed it by. And then one night before we were all going to head out to a sixth form party of all things, we chucked it on because I was ready, unlike my friends who were all preening and doing their hair. I had a spotty face, so I knew I wasn't going to get any dates or get laid or anything like that, so I thought, f it, I'll just crack on with just wearing a dark shirt and jeans. So while I was waiting for my friends, someone said, oh, watch Hot Fuzz and crack it on. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll give it a watch. Oh my god, was that a funny film. Hot Fuzz is basically the story of a high-end police officer in London who is demoted in some ways to the countryside to live in Sandford, which is a picturesque village where everyone is village oriented, everyone knows everyone around here. It's countryside, it's very rural, and he's trying to embed himself into the society of a much slower life, albeit with dark undertones. There are murmurings, there are hushed whispers, there are everyone has accidents around here, but people keep dying. Oh, what's going on here?
Hi. Mr. Messenger. I need to talk to you about George Merchant. Alone. The churchyard, 3 o'clock.
It is, without a doubt, the funniest British comedy I've ever seen, rivaled only by Ali G in the House. It's a masterclass of comedic timing, of quick cut editing, sound effects and soundtrack adding into the comedy so well, cinematography and the way things are filmed adding into the drama, the suspense, and most importantly the comedic aspect of a lot of these things. And the characters, it's like a British cop version, film version of The Simpsons. You have a million different characters in this film, but they all have their individual quirks and they're all caricatures to a certain extent, but that helps push the narrative because as the story progresses, Simon Pegg's character, Nicholas Angel, is forced into this situation whereby he's investigating something that he doesn't realise he's investigating for a lot of the film, and it has to have interactions with a lot of people and is seeing ties to all of these things where everyone else is just used to it because they live in the village. But the most important thing about this film is how seriously it takes itself, which is not very. It's perfectly happy to poke fun at the tiny things about British culture, about the characters themselves, about the comparisons towards its American action-oriented counterparts, and the interaction between Nick Frost and Simon Pegg's characters in the film is truly beautiful. It's beautiful. It's absolutely magnificent.
Any questions?
Hey.
Yes.
Is it true that there is a place in a man's head that if you shoot it, it will blow up?
And the back and forth between some of the characters is legendary. I mean, to the point where it's almost as quotable as Snatch. And I'll give you an example. There's a moment, having joined the police force in Sandford, he goes out with a beer with the entire force, minus the commander. And the reason for this is because they want to get to know each other. Now, two of these special constables or special investigators or CID or whatever they call them, and they're both called the Andes. Andy, both mustaches. They're basically parodies of 1970s police officers, albeit to the extent that they're over the top not caring.
Put a sock in it, town mouse.
Yeah, you want to be a big cop in a small town? F up the model village.
And the back and forth between these characters in this is outstandingly hysterical, like truly hysterical. It's magic. Whoever wrote that deserves an Oscar for that scene alone. It's f***ing brilliant.
Look, I can assure you it wasn't my intention to upset the apple cart.
Yeah, because we all sell apples round here, don't we?
Your dad sells apples, Andy.
And raspberries. But you can't wait to jump into Sergeant Popwell's grave.
I'm not jumping into anyone's grave. Got a mustache.
I know.
The overacting is great. And if you watch the outtakes on the DVD extras, you can see how hard it was to keep a straight face on set, because most of the time the comedy is straight faced. There's tongue in cheek, but it must have been so hard just writing that not laughing, playing it out and not laughing. Nick Frost is an absolute don when it comes to that sort of thing. Simon Pegg is breaking up every other 5 minutes. And the references are great. The action scenes at the end are really good. Like, really good. Like the gunplay and the fights, it's entertaining, it's action oriented, you feel immersed in it. And because it's a British thing, and obviously we're based here in the UK, Americans have also gravitated towards this film to a certain extent. But British people really get the humour because they really nail home just some of the funny aspects of this country and some of their quirks and like the accents and the small nature of some of our villages when compared to the cities.
I only child I couldn't see the view anymore. Was he mumbo?
Right.
What did he say?
Said as his edge, huh? He only took him down because he couldn't see the view no more. What's he number?
What did he say?
It's an outstanding film. Like a reference, the soundtrack is absolutely magnificent. The cinematography is outstanding for a British comedy, and the characters are deep enough to warrant investment throughout the course of the film. If I'm going to pick a strength, it's, like I said, it's definitely the relationship between Simon Pegg and Nick Frost's characters. The one weakness I would say about the film is that you do have to suspend your disbelief for a lot of it, because again, it's not rooted in reality, so you have to remember that you are dealing with human cartoon characters to a certain extent. And it is very gory for what it needs to be. There are specific scenes where someone gets shanked through the throat with a pair of own clippers, and it's I get that it's to a certain extent to be comedic, to be over the top, but by the same token, it just felt a little bit unnecessary. There's a bit as well where someone gets murdered, I won't ruin it, but something falls on somebody, and it is ridiculously over the top. I would actually mark it down for that, because I just thought it didn't add anything really to it, apart from that it was really, really gory.
A few moments later.
Stand back, there's been a terrible accident. Just an accident.
There was a slight punchline after that particular incident. Oh, it's only an accident! You know, which I suppose is kind of funny. But yeah, if you've never watched Hot Fuzz and you like quick-witted, well-paced, deep, emotional, and meaningful comedy, this film has to be one of the best. In fact, I think it cracked my top 5 best films of all time list. It's easily one of the best comedies I've ever seen, if not the best. And it was difficult. It's the same reason why I've not watched to The World's End, because I knew this time that they couldn't top Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, because Hot Fuzz shouldn't have topped Shaun of the Dead, and it managed it somehow, and it did it by being completely conscious and aware of the fact that it was ridiculous to do an over-the-top action-style American cop flick in rural England. It's a brilliant idea and premise, and it's one that's worthy of a 9 out of 10 for its comedic aspect mixed in with its action. It really is that good. If you've never seen this film before, go out and watch it immediately. Make it part of your evening this evening. You won't regret it. And if you can, then try and watch Shaun of the Dead, and then screw it. Do your job as a reviewer, watch The World's End, Tell me how you thought of it. Put the suggestions in the comments whether or not I should check it out or not. So thank you very much for watching this episode of Halcyon Blink. Please like, share, subscribe. If you have any suggestions for any of the blinks I should do, leave them in the comments section. Also, check out some of the other content creators that below. They all deserve your admiration, respect, your views, your likes, your subscriptions. They'd all really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much again for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Halcyon Blink. I've been your PWT World Heavyweight Champion. Be jealous. Peace.